Thank you for joining me. My name is Matt Torrio. I'm a retired Green Beret and prior law enforcement officer. For a short period of time, a full disclosure, I did briefly serve with Matthew Livelsberger. Today, I'm going to be interviewing his wife, Jennifer Davis. Up until this day, she has been silent. She hasn't spoken a word to the press or to the media, and today you are going to hear her side of the story. Jen, thank you for joining me. How are you today?
Hi, thanks, Matt. I really appreciate you letting me use your platform to get my story out. Um, I'm doing okay.
Good, good. I gotta ask, out of curiosity, what is the reason with you now choosing to come forward? It is January 13th, and you've been silent this whole time.
Yeah. I guess first and foremost, I'll say that I do not like public speaking, and I definitely do not like being the center of attention. I've been in a state of survival and in mama bear mode, trying to protect my daughter and myself. Um, it's really important to me to preserve the honor and class of my family. Um, it's gotten to the point that there has been so much misinformation out there about my family that I decided to speak out basically for my daughter, to make sure my daughter, you know, has something to look back on that has the truth in it.
Can can you clarify for everybody how old's your daughter? Because I've seen so much. It's just
Yeah, my daughter is 7.5 months old.
wow. She's brand new. She probably still smells like a new baby.
Yeah, she's really cute.
I love the new baby smell. It's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how'd you guys meet?
Yeah. I've known Matt since 2020. We didn't start dating until 2021, and we got married in July 2022. Um, we had our beautiful daughter this year. Um, Matt and I had a chemistry that was undeniable. We both had the passion and the love for travel, and we were able to do that with one another and even our daughter has gotten to experience some of our most treasured memories and places that we visited. Um, our home in Germany was our special place.
Germany just looks beautiful. I never got stationed over there,
Yeah.
but like I saw a picture of you all over there and it looked absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it is absolutely beautiful. And it's so nice when you're over there. You're able to easily travel to other countries.
Yeah. How did you guys live together over in Germany and you have a place in the Springs? I think some people are confused about that.
Yeah, of course. We do have a home here in Colorado Springs, and we have a home in Germany. And we went back and forth for numerous reasons, but due to Matt's job, he was often deployed
Mhm.
and off doing training. Um, and so it worked best for our family to make sure that I also had a home to go to where I had my support system. And then, of course, Matt would also travel back and forth as well.
Yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of people forget, is that Green Berets not just have like a very high operation tempo when it comes to deployments, but also training. And it's everything is just jammed into that time when you're at home. And so
Yeah.
while it seems like some days you absolutely get more quality time um, being a Green Beret and being on active duty, it feels like, you get a lot of quality time with your family when you do get it, but it's also hard to get that quality time. And when you're stationed overseas, he was in 1st Battalion, 10th Special Forces Group, correct?
Correct.
And so when he's overseas, 1st Battalion, 10th Special Forces Group is in Germany. He's overseas, he deploys, he goes on training. That's a lot of time you're away from your family. When you have a new baby, that's you need support, you need help, and it's just how it is.
Yeah,
And I think
definitely.
yeah, I think a lot of people forget that, it's not just about they'll say, well, Afghanistan and Iraq's over and all these things are over, but no, there's the special operations troops are deployed around the world 24/7, and when they're not doing that, they're on training. And if you're a a spouse of one of those soldiers, you don't get to see him very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, he was coming home for Christmas, and I was talking to you before this, and it sounded like you were excited, and he was excited, and everything was looking up for
Yeah.
Christmas.
Yeah. We were so excited for our family to be reunited for our very first Christmas together. Um, Matt's behavior was on point. He was super excited to be home leading up to him leaving Germany to come home. He couldn't stop talking about it, was so excited to, see how big his daughter had gotten. Um, this is this shock factor for me because there were no signs of any of this. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's excited to come home. You guys have like spent some time apart so that you could help get care for your daughter and stuff while he's busy being the tip of the spear for the United States military.
Yeah.
And it's just much forward looking to vacation time. Did you
Yeah.
categorize him as a good father, like great dad, happy, loving?
Yeah, he was an incredible husband and father, very hands-on. Um, he had a heart of gold.
Yeah, it's one of those things that when you're coming home, it's like it doesn't matter what's in the way. Like it's getting out of the way and you're coming home to see your child, and like the excitement over that is just it's hard to explain. It really is.
Yeah,
How is
yeah,
that how was he when he got home and your time with him when he got home leading up to Christmas?
yeah. It was amazing. One thing that Matt wanted to do while he was home was get an Airbnb up in Breckenridge. He wanted to do that for a few reasons. One, is he wanted our family to be able to just go do something fun together. But he also made plans with a Navy SEAL to meet him in Breckenridge to get some free drones to take back to Germany. So he booked us a really cool Airbnb up there, and he was just like really excited, not only for the Airbnb, but for like the drone piece as well.
Hmm.
Um, and we had a fabulous Christmas. Um, it was really nice. We spent it with my family. And then even on the morning of the 26th, Matt made me breakfast in bed.
Wow, that's awesome. That's like a gift of all gifts for a
Yeah,
mom that's been taking care of a newborn for so long. Like it really
yeah,
is.
yeah.
Did do you mind if I ask you? Did he make those plans? Did he tell you about the plans for the Airbnb in Breckenridge prior to coming home, or was it something he told you after he got home?
It was something he told me after he got home. Once he got here, we were trying to come up with an itinerary of, how best to utilize his 2 weeks back home.
Hmm.
His number one thing, as far as, something he wanted to do was to go up to Breckenridge. This gentleman was only going to be there for a short period of time, and he wanted to make sure that we were able to kind of fit that into our schedule of all the other things that we had going on.
And did like any of that seem out of the ordinary to you? Meeting up with a Navy SEAL in Breckenridge to pick up some drones, did that seem out of the ordinary to you at all?
No, not at all. I didn't think anything of it.
Right. Like is pretty typical statement stuff like that coming out of your husband. Hey, I got to go meet this SEAL. I mean, it's
Yeah,
not a typical life that most Americans would understand, but
yeah,
pretty normal behavior, being open about it. And you said he
yeah,
booked the reservation too, right?
yeah. He booked the reservation. It was kind of like an old historical type Airbnb, is I guess how I would describe that. So he was really excited. We both love kind of that old, Victorian type style places.
Yeah. How was Christmas?
It was great. Um, it was an amazing first Christmas. To be able to, our daughter's still young enough, but she did get excited when she saw, gifts were for her, and that was special.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like, I mean, sounds like everything's going amazing. He's coming home. You
Yeah,
guys are having a great time. You've got plans, you set plans in motion, and everything sounds amazing.
yeah,
Um, you said he woke up and made you breakfast on the 26th as well.
Yeah, he made me breakfast in bed. Took care of our daughter in the morning. Um, we did have a planned family hike for later on that day of the 26th.
Hmm.
And Matt decided to stay back because his stomach hurt. We discussed going to Breckenridge as a family after that, after we returned. And while I was gone, he rented a car and decided to leave.
He did what? I'm sorry. You say he rented
Yeah.
a car and decided to leave while you were gone?
Yeah. He texted me about 20 minutes before I was done with my hike to let me know that he ended up renting a car and decided to head to Breckenridge by himself.
And it was just a text. I'm assuming you tried calling him at that point as well, right? Like that's
Yeah, I actually texted him back at that point, asking him why, why did you leave? I got to be honest, I felt totally abandoned and upset, and I didn't understand. Um, I will say now I understand why, based on his surveillance log.
hmm
Um, it's obvious that he left to protect us. I I was told by his mom and sister that he FaceTimed them once he arrived at the Airbnb. He showed them around, and then they said he was cheerful. They said he was raving about how excited he was for Riley to start hitting her milestones. They were saying, he was talking about how she's gonna start walking before she even crawls. And then started talking about even him and I, and how he was really excited that we're talking about purchasing another home, and that we were trying to figure out what state that was going to be in. And they said that he seemed totally normal.
So as far as you're concerned, minus him just deciding he had to go link up with this guy in Breckenridge, everything else was okay.
Yeah.
Um, when was the last time you talked to him before law enforcement got a hold of you?
He did send an email on the 30th. Um, I will say that the morning of the 27th is kind of when things got weird. Um, And that's when I started getting notifications of password changes to shared accounts. And on the 30th is when he said that he needed to change the passwords
Hmm.
to prevent me from finding him because he believes that I would have tried if I had known. Um, he said the Google account is linked to all of that. And to be frank and honest, between this time and the first, I was really ticked. I don't have the answers to what he was doing up there, what he was up to, any of that. Um, I just, kept going with what he said is, he went up there to go get drones, that's what he's doing. Um, but I was pretty ticked.
Yeah, no kidding, right? I don't think there's a single spouse in this country, male or female, or however they choose to identify, that would not be upset, offended, ticked off at their spouse if everything unfolded like that. But still, at
Yeah.
that point, you weren't looking at it, at least from what I've gathered from speaking with you prior to this. It wasn't like you were looking at this like there was something going on. It was just
Mhm.
boys in the doghouse making so
Yeah.
basically, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, typical marriage stuff, right? Like spouses, we get upset with each other from time to time. It's typical marriage stuff. Uh,
Yep. And I will say though, it's nothing. He's never done anything like that ever before. So it was something new, but again, I just assumed this was something he had planned. This is something he wanted to go do.
mhm.
Um, but none of this has made sense, and it hasn't made sense since the beginning.
Well, and it's interesting too that from my standpoint, anyways, it's interesting knowing that as far as his notes go, he left Breckenridge on the 27th, then went down to Denver, if my memory serves me correctly. And that would be following the meeting. And I think he even put in his notes that that's when he called the meeting off and went into Denver. And so it seems like almost that's when everything started to go downhill for him for some reason, which we don't know.
Yeah.
Um, can you kind of walk us through a little bit? how you found out what happened and how you were notified?
Yeah. Um, the morning of, well, I should say, it was the afternoon of the first. His dad actually called me, and he said that he started to get calls from reporters, and he asked me, "Do you know where Matt is?" And I let him know I don't. Um, and shortly thereafter, my family started getting these phone calls, and I started to panic. Part of me is like, "There's no way this could be my husband. There's no way." Um, I reached out to someone in the military, and I said, "Hey, we're getting some really strange calls. I can't get a hold of Matt. Um, you know, what should I do?" And they said, "Well, if you haven't been notified by now that this is your husband, like it probably isn't. You're okay." And so I I just held on to that really hard and tight,
Right.
hoping that it wasn't. And later on that night, around 7:30, I got a call from the FBI letting me know that they would like for me to pack up our dog and my daughter and head to the station. Um, the entire time I was so hoping that as soon as I walked into the station, my husband was going to be there.
Yeah.
Um, and that wasn't the case. They sat me down and let me know that they had reason to believe that it was my husband in the vehicle, and they asked me to identify some of his tattoos. Um, but other than that, they also asked if they could take Riley's DNA, which I did not hesitate with. And, uh, and they took that towards the end of us being there.
And Riley's your daughter, correct?
Correct.
So, do you remember about what time all of that happened towards the end of you being there and them asking for a DNA? And did they have somebody that was just there waiting to kind of like draw blood, or how'd they go about doing it?
Yeah. They ended up swabbing Riley's mouth, and that was at the very end.
Hmm.
We didn't get to the station until around probably 8:30. By the time we went through everything, they probably did not swab for her DNA until 10:30 that night.
Okay. So they swab her DNA. You go back home. I'm so sorry. Um, I can't even imagine what that would feel like, or being. I can imagine what it would feel like to be in your shoes, seeing what was taking place on the media outlets everywhere, and just listening. And did you just tune everything out? I feel like that's what I would have done. Would just shut everything off and go to bed, or do my best and just focus on my daughter at that point. Were you able?
Yeah, I think that it's hard not to, keep track of what's going on because you kind of live in this space of denial, right? And you're just like, I hope that this is wrong. I think the most sick and twisted thing is once people started talking about how Riley's DNA didn't match Matt's, and it gives that false hope, right? It gives that hope that maybe that wasn't my husband in the vehicle. I immediately called the coroner and I asked if her DNA matched, and she said yes. But it was just definitely a really hard and sick time to, you know, have that going around.
When did you hear about that? Was it the morning of January 3rd?
Um, I do not remember the actual day.
Yeah. I'm assuming you found out really, really fast though, whenever it hit the media.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there ever any doubt in your mind of I guess, genetics of your daughter?
No, never. That was never a worry of Matt and I either. That was Riley is his baby. She even looks like her daddy.
Yeah. Were you aware of where that statement had originated from until we had talked?
Um, I wasn't aware. Um, I had people start to tell me that it was in a podcast. But that's all I knew at the time.
Yeah. And I mean, I played the audio for you. I mean, what's your just thoughts listening to that on how it came out? Um, and the email, because gosh, those are two bombs that just got dropped on you on one day. You know, that email that came out in the podcast and the I just realized that and the DNA claim.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it was hard. I don't know. I don't know why um, someone would slander our family that way.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm with you. There's no reason for it. None. I really hope, really hope that that gets looked into and whoever it was that made those statements is held accountable for them, to be honest. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. When you have you read the email that was put out on that podcast?
The supposed manifesto.
Yeah, it's what they're calling his manifesto, isn't it? Unfortunately.
I I I read it initially, and that was with the day that it came out, and I have not since went back to reread it.
Did that sound like your husband to you?
I'm not sure.
That's fair. That's fair. After the Las Vegas Metro PD and the FBI had released what they said were statements and notes from his observation log that came off his phone. Was that something
Yeah.
they had talked to you about before? I'm assuming the FBI questioned you and everything. Were you getting that information as it was being released to the public, or were you able to see that stuff before?
I was getting most of the information as it was released to the public. Um, right as I would get a call to let me know. Um, I knew about the surveillance log, and like I said before, it answers questions of why he left. I know there were speculations I kicked him out of the house, and that was definitely not true. Um, and they have let me know within his 6-page letter that there are parts for me and our daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, these are for me and my daughter. But I do feel comfortable sharing a little tidbit of that.
Of course.
Um, some of these parts that he said, I have a wonderful wife and 7-month-old baby girl. All I ever wanted to do is have a family. My wife and daughter are the most incredible humans on this earth. Please physically protect my family, mostly because they are going to get caught up in all of this.
Yeah. And that's something we talked about too before even going into this. After I guess after reading everything that has been released so far, how what did you feel like your husband's actions were towards you, your children, the family?
I think that Matt was protecting us until the very end.
Was there anything in there that led you to believe it? Like you're looking at these and you're going, yeah, he's 100% trying to keep us safe.
Yeah, I think he knew why he was leaving. He thought that he was being followed. He didn't want, to be in our home, where his daughter and I are. Um, And he clearly thought about us until the very end of, I think that that's why he kind of stopped communicating with us. He really wanted to make sure that he was breaking those ties, and um, that connection, just to make sure that we were safe.
Speaking with the FBI, do you mind if I ask you what type of questions they were asking you, what they were seeking clarification on?
Yeah, they were asking, when did he leave the home, uh, and how was his behavior? Where was he going to go? Asked about his, identification, his tattoos. They had me look at an individual, um, and asked me if I had ever seen this individual, which I never have seen. I don't know who it was. And they're just trying to get kind of a picture as to what could have caused this, and really any detail.
Did they ask you about his actions before the 26th and like the things he was doing if he'd went anywhere?
Um, Not really. We didn't really go into depth about that. It was more so from him leaving the home on the 26th and why, and kind of how was our relationship leading up to all of this.
Did 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 you tell the FBI that you had kicked him out or anything of that nature?
No, I never kicked him out.
Right. I'm really curious to see where that came from and whoever started spreading that, I really hope they are held accountable. I really do. I'm so sorry for you. Um, was there anything else that you wanted to get out?
No, I think that is it. My biggest thing, like I said, is I just want to make sure that people understand who my husband was. Um, and that none of this makes sense. I hope at some point we will receive answers. Um, you know, these are just strictly facts that I know them. And I think that's it.